hit a pretty major milestone with scooters last night, and I thought I'd share with you guys a little bit of last night's council meeting and the progress that we've made really over the last year of hard work in looking at what other cities are doing either wrong or in a more rudimentary way with per unit pricing and making government the customer compared to what Charlotte has been able to do to date, really putting us on the forefront of letting the free market work and allowing innovation to happen, yet safety to be balanced. So without further ado, here's the update.
Most cities charge a per unit fee. That's usually an annual fee. We talked with you that those annual fees can range from $20 per unit annually to $300 per unit. Raleigh has a $300 per unit fee, Durham $100, and Greensboro $50. But really, no cities were encouraging through their fee programs good behavior, good riding behavior, safe behavior. And so that's where the dynamic pricing comes in, and that's where we are today. So since January, you may have seen an announcement last week that Passport is working with Detroit, Omaha, and Charlotte to basically partner on a dynamic fee pilot. And we know that cities around the country are looking at us. There were several others that are very interested in this, but I think they'll be watching our progress. I think all eyes will be on Charlotte. So what is dynamic pricing? It is a monthly fee charged to the vendors that fluctuates based on a series of variables. And it's a fee system that gives incentives and disincentives for the things we want and disincentives for the things that we don't want. So what are some of the things that we know we want with e-scooters? Well, we want some safety improvements, right? And so a couple of those are we don't want scooters parking and blocking the sidewalks. And we also want to encourage helmet usage. We talked a lot about first last mile transit, and we'll show you how we've incorporated that into the dynamic pricing model. And then we also want the fee to vary based off of how long is the scooter parked in a place and to vary by geography. So a couple examples. As you can see in these two pictures, we have a gentleman who's riding without a helmet, and if you can imagine with me, when he finished his trip, he parked his scooter right there at a crosswalk. That's not what we want. So this person didn't wear a helmet, parked in a high pedestrian area, blocked the sidewalk, and the scooter was parked for 4 hours. That's not what we want. That's definitely what we want to discourage. As opposed to this gentleman who wore a helmet, parked near transit, did not block the sidewalk, and the scooter was parked for less than an hour. We want to incentivize that behavior. So we want lots more of those green check marks and a lot less of the red circles. As we dive just a little bit deeper into that first example, the type of example that we don't want, the dynamic fees helps us address that. So imagine we're going to have 1 million trips. We're about to cross that threshold. And so what the dynamic fee does is we charge penalties if you don't wear a helmet, if you block the sidewalk, if you park your scooter for a long time. In this case, 45 cents. So if every single trip, every single one of those 1 million trips did exactly that, I guess theoretically we could be collecting for those trips about $450,000 in fees each year. That's probably not going to happen. I don't think everyone's going to behave that poorly. So hopefully we're going to have a lot more of this. And again, with this scenario, with dynamic fees, the person used a helmet, they did not block the sidewalk, and they parked for less than an hour. And so in this case, they got a whole series of discounts. The vendor gets a whole series of discounts, and it results in negative 30 cents for that trip. Now, we're not going to give back negative 30 cents to the vendors, but theoretically, if every single trip of those 1 million trips does exactly that, we might collect no fees for e-scooters. So that just gives you a little bit of when we think about, as we work towards the dynamic pricing pilot, understanding the inputs that we're looking at. And then finally, as I wrap up, dynamic pricing gives us the opportunity to grow the system here in Charlotte. It allows the number of scooters to grow as ridership grows, but to grow responsibly, and I think that's what we all want. So we're using the threshold that's been used elsewhere. Austin is the model that we're looked to for that, of more than 3 trips per scooter per day allows you to grow the system. If a vendor each month through the dynamic pricing pilot can demonstrate that they're meeting that threshold, they can expand their system. And if a vendor has scooters on the street and they're not meeting their 3 trips per day threshold, there's a penalty for that. And really that's to help us keep in balance and check the number of scooters that are out there. We don't want the system growing faster than there is ridership.
I just want to congratulate staff for partnering with the scooter companies, with Passport, with all of these innovators, and working hard to be innovative, because a lot of cities, a lot of big tech cities have gotten this wrong. Some of them have started by outright banning scooters, and you guys have taken an approach of balancing safety while allowing innovation to thrive in a tough environment. A lot of these cities have put government in the center of this and made government the customer by saying, here are the permits, and you can have 500, and you can have 200, and you can have 1,000. And implementing this dynamic cap is allowing the market to work, and it's making the rider the customer, and the rider gets to vote by who they decide to ride with. And then finally, with this dynamic fee structure, you're taking the power of the free market and the things that you want to accomplish, we as a city want to accomplish, and you're incentivizing. And to my colleague's point about, well, will they just pass those, the fee dings versus the positives on? The beauty of this system is one scooter company may decide to pass that on to the customer and say, hey, you know what, I don't really care. And that scooter company's rides now become 15 cents on average more expensive every time they ride, while another customer might say, I'm going to put my R&D department on this and figure out a creative way to turn the phone around and snap a picture where AI identifies there's a helmet on, and now they go back to that second point of the dynamic cap, and then people start riding with them because it's cheaper, it's more innovative, and the rider is the ultimate customer. So I just think that while the story's not complete yet, if people aren't taking notice in the general public, I know that people are already taking notice in the alternative transportation and nerdy scooter world that Charlotte's on the cutting edge of the world right now in this program, not to mention the partnership with Passport. So kudos to the work, and it's been painful, I know, but it will definitely serve to be a case study for years to come.